In a world where jobs are how most people make money, one man, one desire, one challenge dares to break the mold. Welcome to the Old Dogs REI Network, where we don't work for money. Money works for us. Coming soon. Viewer discretion advised.
Welcome to the Old Dogs REI Network, where cash flow is king. Real estate investing, the means, so you can enjoy your retirement dreams. This is the show where we cut right to the chase. No sales pitch, no long monologues, just simple how-to real estate investing advice, so you can earn the passive income you need to enjoy your retirement today. And now, your host and chief old dog, Bill Manacero.
Welcome to the Old Dogs REI Network. I'm your host, Bill Manacero, and this is a show where 50-plussers and anyone else who wants to join us get solid, no sales pitch real estate investing advice to help generate real cash flow. This podcast airs twice weekly on Mondays and Fridays, and if you aren't already a subscriber, go to iTunes or Apple Podcast, type in Old Dogs, spelled D-A-W-G-S, find our podcast and subscribe. Well, I am really stoked about today's guest. This is going to be awesome. Not only is she just an amazing real estate investor and person, but she happens to come from Haiti. And as you guys know, that's where our family lived for 12 years of our lives. And we have a major heart for that beautiful country and the beautiful people that live there. So I am really, really excited to introduce to you Rachel Gainsbrugh. And Rachel was born in Haiti with a drive to make a difference and not take her parents' sacrifices for granted. She was raised in Miami, Florida, worked hard, became a doctor, and was left with over $500,000 in student loans. Yikes. So she grinded hard to pay off her loans. When she discovered Airbnb investing, it became a game changer for her as she was able to make 15 times on short-term rentals over long-term rentals. She's going to talk to us about how she did that. Now she's a healthcare professional, actually retiring soon here, or maybe already retired officially. She's going to tell us about that too. And real estate investor as well. She's the owner and manager of 18 luxury short-term rentals with a lucrative cash-flowing rental portfolio. And if that's not enough, she's also a mom, wife, and real estate coach that was recently featured on a Netflix TV show showcasing one of her luxury rentals. Rachel is passionate about helping professionals create a life they don't need a vacation from through Airbnb investing. Well, Rachel, welcome to the Old Dogs REI Network.
Oh my goodness, Bill. Thank you so much for having me. I just can't tell you how honored I am to be here with you. And I know it takes a lot of time and energy to put together this content to your audience. So I'm so grateful to be here. And I hope they're inviting their friends to listen in, because everyone needs to hear this stuff, right? If I knew about real estate investing back when I was in my 20s and 30s, I would have been further along. So thank you, Bill.
Oh, well, it is my pleasure and honor to have you on. You have really just crushed it here in terms of, moving into Airbnb. We were talking off air, and I was talking about how I'd been in it, but it wasn't luxury by any means. And the fact that you found this amazing niche that is doing so well, for you and your family, and it's really exciting. And the challenge of having working full time to get all this off the ground. I'm dying to hear the story. Now, you're not really an old dog, okay? We make that real clear here, okay? I know it sounds real derogatory here, but you're a young pup still. So, I think we can still learn, though, from you young pups, that us old dogs. So I am just very, very interested in hearing your story. I know you were born in Haiti, and then kind of take us from there. Or maybe, if you want to talk a little bit about that and how you so let's go.
Let's do it. Okay, absolutely. So Bill, you read it off beautifully. So raised in Miami, two things actually my parents really instilled in me. It was having faith, having a strong faith background, and education. So education was my path to freedom, according to how I was raised. And so I really took that seriously. I understood the gravity of the situation in Haiti and how the opportunity I was given, I did not want to take it for granted. And so I really worked hard to excel in education. So I wouldn't say I'm a natural born talent or anything like that academically, but I really worked hard to do well. And so undergrad was paid off, with scholarships. But once I hit graduate school, there weren't really too many scholarships, if any at all. And so that's where we accumulated our debt. Both my husband and I, he's a psychotherapist, retired as well. He retired earlier than me last year. And so once we graduated, though, not having a strong financial literacy background, because there wasn't a lot of finances to, I guess, literate around.
That's a great line. I love that.
I don't know if that's a word, but yeah, there wasn't a lot of financial literacy. I did know you pay your tithe and you kind of manage and you lived off of the rest, because there was not much, margin or anything left over. And so there was no strategy. We didn't sit around a table brokering deals or anything like that. We didn't take family vacations. It was church on Sundays and Wednesdays and Fridays and go to school the rest of the time. And that was pretty much it. That was my life. And honestly, it was a wonderful life. I didn't see anything wrong with it at all. But again, that financial literacy component was missing. And so once I graduated from grad school, I completed my residency. I came from getting paid $0 an hour as a student, interning to $15 an hour. And I was thinking to myself, whoa, look at all this money, $15 an hour. That was huge. And then residency, I think it was like $28,000 a year, and so my husband and I, we lived off of that. And he had an internship type of job, making about the same $28,000 a year at a psychiatric practice. And but once we got our big boy and big girl jobs, it was in the six figures. And we're like, oh my goodness, this is absolutely amazing. But the student loans completely annihilated that quickly, because initially you would have thought that we would get, laser focused, pay that off, and then start moving on with a strategy. But the first thing I did was, let's build a house and let's get a car and let's get several cars and high end this. And so for the first time, I thought, we're going to live our best lives ever. And whoa, fell into that trap. And it was quite tragic, I gotta say, initially. And so we found programs, Getting Out of Debt, Dave Ramsey, Debt Snowball, and we really went all in on that strategy. And really, I know as controversial as it may be, it really helped us to get a handle on a budget and a handle on getting out of debt. And that's really the beginning of the story. At some points, when you're under crushing student loan debt, it sometimes feels as though, you're done. It's like, oh my gosh, this thing is going to be the death of me. We worked multiple overnight shifts at multiple institutions in order to kind of grind it out and make additional income to pay it off. And we were able to accomplish that. And after that, we decided, okay, we need to do something that is going to kind of exponentially accelerate our savings, because at that point we really didn't have any savings for kids' college or any of those things. And so we looked around. At that time, I want to say Bitcoin and cryptocurrency was coming to the forefront. We're like, oh, that looks really interesting, but just not understanding what it was and how to do it. We said, you know what? let's stick to real estate. We can see a house and touch a house. I mean, it felt real because it's real in real estate, hint, hint, right? And so we definitely went the real estate route and explored different strategies, but we found short-term rentals and we really haven't looked back since then.
Wow. Wow. That's a amazing story. I just the thought of that huge weight on you though with the student loans. I mean, that's and some people, I mean, they get up to, even my age and they're still paying them, I mean, it can be just such a burden, but that was smart how you tackled it and moved head in there. Now you didn't just get into real estate. I mean, you've kind of found a niche there too. So I'd like to hear, how did you first get into real estate? Did you just, become, just buy a rental property and start from that? Or did you immediately go into the other direction?
Well, that's why I thanked you in the very beginning, Bill, because the amount of content and education you're putting out there is so important. And I literally listened to about 2 years worth of content on podcasts on real estate investing. And I consumed that information and really allowed that information to challenge my mindset in multiple ways, open my mind to different strategies. I was learning about everything from syndications, wholesaling, industrial, commercial real estate, short-term rentals. And so being, again, the little girl from Haiti, I'm going to be very frugal as I can be. I was thinking to myself, okay, what is the lowest cost of entry to enter into real estate? And, again, marketing works, right? I was like, oh, great, wholesaling. That sounds easy.
While working full time, huh?
Right.
Oh, man. Okay.
Right. And so quickly, I what was great is I actually did an activity where I added all the pros and cons on one column of the different strategies. And I was looking at wholesaling. In reality, those who were willing to be honest with me, the time commitment was a huge barrier,
Yes.
and you read my bio. I'm a wife. I've got a whole husband, 2 kids, 3 dogs, all the things. And I said, okay, to myself, okay, there's no way that's going to be a good fit for me. And I know there are people who have learned how to automate it through virtual assistants and they have that skill set and that comes through experience. And so I wasn't there yet. So, just watching my HGTVs, the next obvious things. Oh yeah, absolutely. Fix and flip.
Flipping through the channel, having to.
That was easy. By the end of the episode, they just made $80,000.
Isn't that amazing? And just like, 40 minutes, it's like they can transform a house. It just. And make tons of money. It looks so easy.
Right, exactly. So that was thesis number 2. So I went deep and investigated and spoke with actual fix and flippers to get the real picture. And just that whole project management piece, you're managing multiple vendors, I said, okay, that is another time commitment. And not having the skill set and the resources for that. Probably not a good idea. But around that time, I was contacted by a gentleman who I learned around that time, he was a wholesaler. He sent me a property. This property, oh my gosh, it was gorgeous, 3 bedrooms. The sun was glimmering on the right side of the house. There was just, a little waterfall type of scene. This house was absolutely gorgeous in the photos. So, and at only $18,000, what can go wrong, right?
Yeah.
What a deal. Like the deal of my dreams, Bill. So we drove out from Georgia. I'm in Georgia. We drove to Alabama and I was thinking to myself, oh my goodness, this is our big break. This is like just dreamy. And my husband, of course, I call him my ride or die. He just comes along with me. He's like, are you sure about this? This doesn't seem right. He thinks I can be gullible sometimes. He goes, for a smart woman, you kind of... And I was like, yeah, this is fantastic. And I'm speaking to the homeowner along the way. Yeah, come on, sugar. And I'm coming. I said, I'm coming. So I get there, Bill, and I kid you not, he's heading to knock on the door. Half of this roof is caved in.
Oh my goodness.
There was caulking seeping on every edge. Like it almost looked like glue just like
They're trying to
dripping
glue
from
it together, right?
literally glued together. And I'm reaching out to my husband, don't go, don't knock on the door. He goes, we drove all the way here, 2 hours, 2.5 hours. Like, no. And so we drive our way back home, Bill. And that was the moment, although I was thinking about joining the We Buy Ugly Houses crowd to do fix and flips. I said, you know what? For my lifestyle and my skill set, I could paint a little bit, not that great. So for my lifestyle and my skill set, I'm probably going to be more of a We Buy Pretty Houses investor, more so than the We Buy Ugly Houses investor.
That was smart.
We did not invest in a lot of profit. We realized, okay, we need to invest in something that it's going to make sense for us, a little bit more towards the turnkey side, and that's what we did. A couple of weeks later, we got an alert, and it was from the MLS, honestly, from Zillow, that there was a property within, I would say, 1 minute drive from our neighborhood, walking distance.
No way. Wow.
Mm-hmm. That was on sale for $100,000 lower than I knew it was worth. The owner had passed away. The trustee, the son lived out of state and just wanted to offload it. And the realtor was not very familiar with the market. And I'm a spreadsheets girl. I had dissected all of the markets in my surrounding area. Awesome. And so investors came in from other areas, but I came in and offered the asking price with no contingencies, no nothing. Others were asking for several things. I had 7 other investors ahead of me, but I got the deal because I knew, what that property was worth, and I wasn't going to ask for anything because at that point, with $100,000 worth of equity, I was thinking, I looked at it, I drove by, I said, okay, the roof, doesn't look the greatest, but higher cost of living area, beautiful area, A+ schools. And I had read in a book, and this is one of the books that I'll share a little bit later on, but the book on rental property investing, I had read where, a roof would cost XYZ number of dollars to replace. So I had that in the back of my mind. And then I subtracted that from the equity, and I subtracted, some other cosmetic things from the equity. And I realized, okay, this is still a great deal. And we won. We purchased that home. I found an estate. The owner had a professional designer design the home, but she was moving to a 1-bedroom condo beachfront from this 5-bedroom beautiful home. And we purchased everything. We told her, close the door on this estate, so we will buy everything. So for $15,000, we furnished a 4-bedroom home with designer everything because someone changed their mind about their living situation, and it was newly designed, very modern. And so it was a deal. And that's how we started with this property.
Oh, neat. Now, were you renting them out then, just the traditional way to start?
Absolutely not. Again, I said I was a spreadsheets girl. So when I looked at long-term rental, Bill, I thought to myself, okay, so with this $300 of net profits per month, if that.
Yeah, I was going to say that's probably good for long-term rental.
I said, it's going to take me forever to retire. Yeah. So you have a hot water heater go out, that eats into that real quick. Right. It was not something that really excited me, long-term rentals. So we found short-term rentals. We thought, the numbers look great. This type of property would be a great short-term rental. But when I did the analysis and I used different tools such as AirDNA, and I actually used the native Airbnb tool as well as Verbo. When I did the analysis on properties that were, I would say, standard properties versus luxury, the luxury properties outperformed significantly. And so from the very beginning, my mindset was to focus on luxury, do whatever I can to identify, understand really what that luxury stay looks like, and focus on properties that I could curate that luxury stay.
Awesome. Now, are you in the Atlanta area, did you say?
Yeah, so 30 minutes south of Atlanta in a suburban area.
And so are these fairly close to where you live, or do you have some that are further away?
Yeah, I have a handful. 4 of them are fairly close to where I live. We have a portfolio as well. And I'll let you know a little bit about how we grew it in the Poconos, in the Smokies. And we have 2 new constructions in Florida on the Panhandle.
Neat. And okay, so just for our listeners that may not be familiar with Airbnb, looking at just sort of you're renting homes. These are all homes for the most part, or do you also have condos or apartments?
Personally, I have single family homes.
Okay, they're all single family homes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And you're saying luxury, so you might want to help define what that really means, for the average person listening, and also and what would be like a difference in a daily rate on one of your homes as compared to just another regular middle class home.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I'll start with a 10,000 foot view. So when it comes to the daily rate for a luxury versus a standard short-term rental or standard Airbnb can be anywhere from you're renting out a room, at a place, at someone's home. A room rental can be anywhere from $50 a night, $75 a night, $30 a night, even. I've seen that. So that's a room rental. Something like that would never ever pass for a luxury rental, of course. So when it comes to luxury, when we're looking at the price point, typically, depending on the season and depending on the market, right, it can be anywhere from, say, $600 a night to about $2,800 a night, I would say, in the US. But, it can definitely be no ceiling, depending on if you're in Hawaii or California or overseas. There could be no ceiling to that nightly rate. But if it's, under $100, for sure, it would not be a luxury stay. Typically, it would be above $500 a night. In the Southeast, where things are a little bit more cost effective, $500 a night in California, for instance, may not be luxury. So that I want to give the perspective that the regions really do matter.
Right.
Okay, so keep that in mind. So when it comes to luxury, especially modern luxury travel, there is a difference in traditional luxury. So traditional luxury, things that perhaps my parents and grands would appreciate. It's gold-plated this or gold-plated countertops or, all of the razzmatazz. But when it comes to modern luxury, it's curating a stay that can facilitate connections. So individuals want to reconnect with one another, families coming together to reconnect. Individuals want to connect with nature. So if you have a phenomenal space where you can facilitate great hiking, great adventures, you can definitely curate a luxury stay. And convenience is a big part of it as well. So you want to set up a property where they're check-in and check-out is super easy and super convenient. Nothing dings luxury like slow Wi-Fi, inconvenient check-in, and so on and so forth. Another big factor of it, honestly, is communication. So when it comes to communications, that is the very beginning of that luxury journey. And the communication starts, of course, with the guests identifying the listing as, this is a listing that I would be interested in taking a peek at. So the photos should definitely be professional photos. And as soon as that inquiry is put out there, or the guest is asking about the space, the conversation should be very attentive and very open and value driven. And so those are parts of what would curate more so of a luxury stay as far as the granularity. But when I'm looking at a property, again, you're looking at a property in a neighborhood or a resort community that has great curb appeal. It doesn't have to have all the things, but what would preclude a property from a luxury property is definitely a neighborhood that does not have a lot of curb appeal. There are vehicles, say, on the lawn being worked on or on cinder blocks. Yeah, there's no way to really leverage that property as a luxury property. I hope that gives you a little bit of insight.
No, that's excellent explanation. You mentioned and emphasized too the customer service aspect of that, the contact and the communication. Now, did you do that, or do you still do that, directly, or do you offload that to a outside service or outside people?
Yeah, so I personally do not do that. I actually offloaded to an inside service. So I trained my own virtual assistants to take over that. But I did do it to start. I'm a hands-on gal. I'm very type A. I
Hmm.
do have control issues sometimes. So I was the CEO and cleaning lady, Bill. I was doing it all.
Oh, I bet you, looking at, the cleaning jobs, you'd probably be, I'm sure, really on that, because that's huge. Somebody comes in and there's even like a hair in the sink or something like that. People can get
Mhm.
really upset. So I know that the cleaning aspect is really key, especially in a luxury.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes, absolutely. So the standards are even more stringent when it comes to luxury for sure.
Oh, that's neat. Wow. Well, this is really great, and it's interesting too, just to hearing how on the first couple that you also bought deals. I mean, you sought out a deal, so that you actually
Mhm.
went into it buying something a little under market,
Mhm.
which immediately adds value, and over the long term, it can be significant. So, were you able to do that as you started to move into other properties as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So there was another property. The next property actually was another single family home, a little bit of a larger footprint, actually double the size, larger footprint. And I started to gain my stride in the 5 to 8 bedroom range. And here's why, Bill. My guest avatar is multi-generational, multi-families traveling with children and pets. That is my sweet spot, and that is where we drive the most revenue. So, for instance, if a single gal and her husband, or a single couple, a couple, and small family, 2 little kids, if they're traveling, and the price point that we would demand on them will be quite high on one of these larger homes. But when you look at the demographic of this avatar, you have me, my husband, my mom and dad, my siblings, their spouses, my husband's siblings, their spouses. You have about 5 or 6 adult family units
Right, right. That.
paying paying family units, right?
Right. And it's not so bad for them too, because after everybody splits up their share, it's it's more affordable for them, I would imagine too. But that makes a big difference. That's true. That's a real good point.
Exactly. And that's how I split you split the risk amongst 8 families or 6 families or 5 families at $1,800 a night stay, or $2,500, a night stay in peak seasons. It's going to be like $1,800 for the whole 7 days if you split it, right? So
Right.
not too bad. And it's still much better than a hotel. I'm not dissing hotels at all, but you just have more elbow room. You have, a chef's kitchen. You have just the space to kind of roam and run around. You're pet friendly. And so you're going to pay a premium for that because, to board Fufu, it's going to be quite expensive. And so, and
Right.
typically they're not traveling with one pet. It's always like 2 or 3. So we're going to demand a higher price point for it because of course we need to clean and sanitize and air purify, for the next guest. But I have really gotten laser focused on that avatar because the amount of time it takes us to turn over and to clean and to, take care of a 3 bedroom, is a similar amount of time for a 5 bedroom. Why not go a little bit bigger and demand that higher price point?
Now, with luxury rentals like this, are your occupancy rates still high? I mean, 2,500 a night. I mean, that's a big ticket there. Are you able to get up to the 80-90% occupancies?
Oh, I love that question. So, Bill, here's what I found actually, doing this. We started in 2019. So, doing this for the past 2 to 3 years, my ideal occupancy rate is at about 70%. So 65 to 75% is where I want to stay. If I go above that occupancy rate, I'm now delivering a lesser quality product.
And I could see that, right? Because you need that sort of between guest time, especially if they've got pets and other things. You do have to have a much more intensive, I would imagine, a much more intensive cleaning effort. But I would also say too that it wouldn't be as stressful for you too if you bump that up too much, and and just in terms of managing it, I imagine if you were to have higher occupancies, that also would be a little bit more demanding on you, I would think.
Yeah, absolutely. And overall, when we looked at the numbers, the occupancy rates, and I know, especially for multifamily, we're looking at 100%. No, for me, it's different. And if it was a 1-bedroom loft, yes, I would want that 90% occupancy rate, right? So you drive occupancy, but my lever that I'm driving is actually daily rate. So my lever is I increase my price, keep my occupancy lower than others may expect, and that is our sweet spot for sure.
I mean, I would imagine, even you're talking about $2,500 a night. If that could be easily a mortgage payment in one night. I mean, I don't know if that's a reality with you or not, but I mean, you get rid of the number one expense right there.
It is. Mm-hmm.
Gee, that's amazing. That is, so you really don't need that many nights, and the profits, just have to be phenomenal. But also the requirement is heavier too. You've got probably nicer furniture, so if something does get damaged, I know that they, generally the guest would pay if they damaged it, but if it's just something that through wear and tear, what have you, you have to replace it with something nice too. So the costs to maintain it, I imagine, are higher, just because it is a luxury rental.
Yeah, and it is a bit higher, but we strive to purchase, say, a little bit more sturdier furniture. So, nothing wrong with IKEA, but we wouldn't purchase IKEA furniture to put in these properties. And oftentimes the vendors that we're purchasing from, they have, guarantees and warranties. So we look at those. We actually, that's a big part of our SOP. We look closely at those to see if it's something that we can leverage for sure for replacements.
Gotcha. Now, in your materials, you mentioned something called a blue ocean strategy that you utilize. Can you define that and explain how that works for you?
Yeah, absolutely. So the red ocean, blue ocean strategy is where it's like a frenzied feeding, right, in the red oceans. Mm-hmm. And so that's where all of the competition lies. And a 1-bedroom, a 2, a 3, even a 4-bedroom, the barrier to entry is a little bit smaller in our minds, right? The perception is that the barrier of entry is smaller. So the vast majority of individuals who are entering into the short-term rental world, they'll go that route. They'll go a little bit smaller, a little bit more conservative. There's nothing wrong with that. But the competition there's over 1 million, I want to say, or Airbnb actually claims they had over 100 million stays last year, is what the new earnings report says. So millions and millions of listings. Well, how do we stand out? How are we going to peacock above the fray? How are we going to make ourselves a little bit different? And so it's tough when you're in a market where there's so much competition. So our approach, again, with the luxury, is to stand out from the crowd, is to be in a place. I got to tell you, in some markets, I'm the only luxury property owner.
Wow.
And so, so when I look in certain markets, I'll zoom into 5-bedroom plus or 6-bedroom plus, host 10, 16, 18. And
wow.
Only my properties are popping up. I really do not have competition in this blue ocean. So I'm just kind of free to do what it is that I want to do, and kind of curate a stay that's unique, where my guests, they get an opportunity to really get to know me as a brand, and get to have that authentic stay that I work hard to make sure that they're experiencing.
Gotcha. So what is your ideal property in terms of number of beds, baths, in that regard?
5 to 8 bedroom is my favorite. Those properties are oftentimes Now a lot of people know about short-term rentals, but usually I'm not in a lot of bidding wars for those properties. So 5 to 8 bedrooms are definitely where I see the ROI being pretty significant. And the gross ROI, as well as my cash on cash and cap rates are higher with my 5 to 8 bedrooms.
Right. That's awesome. I noticed you have some that are sound like just a regular neighborhood, but then you've got properties in the Smokies in more sort of vacation
resorts. Yeah.
Resorts.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes.
So what percentage of those of your properties are in the sort of the resort areas? Because that I imagine is a very competitive market.
Yeah, about 60% are in vacation resort areas, and the other 40% are in neighborhoods. And believe it or not, the ones in the neighborhoods are also crushing because we actually stumbled upon a whole other avatar that we were not necessarily anticipating.
Yeah, and talk to me about that, because I'm kind of curious, what dynamic do you need for an area or neighborhood specifically that would be conducive to those larger rental demographics? So, I mean, I would think kind of off the top of my head, a university in the area, something along those lines. What are the the market dynamics that you're looking for?
So let me tell you a story. This is really interesting how we actually stumbled upon this. So the second home that we purchased, it was being rented out as a long-term rental for $1,800 a night. And we put in about $30,000 worth of renovations, lipstick, pretty much carpet, updated flooring, paint, updated the ceilings, flattened that out. So $30,000, not too bad, right?
Right.
The house cost $462K, which is, for me, it was like, oh, that's a lot, right?
Mm-hmm.
But $1,800 was long-term rental rate. And so dare I say, I added a dynamic pricing tool to the listings after I placed it online. For that first month, I said, I just wanted to rent it out for 30 nights until I can build out the cleaning team. I wanted to have a backup to my cleaning team. And so I listed it for a 30-night minimum, turn on my dynamic pricing tool. And in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, wow, from $1,800, wouldn't it be amazing for it to rent for something like $6,000,
Oh, gee.
right? $1,800 a month. Wouldn't it be amazing for it to rent for $6,000 a month? Just still really starting out, very new. And then I thought to myself, wow, looking at the numbers, I was like, wow, it can probably demand $8,000 a month, which was insane. But then I finally, alas, I turn on the dynamic pricing tool. And one thing that you need to know about algorithms and pricing tools, you do need to train it and to update it to make sure it's doing the right thing. The first few swings, they're going to miss the mark, but then you train it. So when I turned it on, Bill, it listed the property for 30 nights at $28,000.
Oh my goodness. $28,000 a month?
Yes.
That
for
is
30 nights.
Crazy. And you got it.
Well, I thought, no, that's
Okay.
certainly wrong. There's
Yeah.
no way, that's ridiculous. And then it got booked.
No way.
That month for $28K, and it's dynamic, right? So the next month for $15K, the next month for $22K, the next month for $21K. And here I am with my little girl from Haiti mindset, thinking about $8,000 a month, or, at the most, $10,000 would be a dream. The dynamic pricing tool came in with no self-limiting beliefs, no prejudices, just looked around the market, realized what occupancy was looking like, realized what events were coming in, and bam, $28K. And so it was a family of four, family of three, husband, wife, and a child, and a nanny that rented it out the first month. They were the executive directors of a major movie. Now, Georgia is now Yollywood, Hollywood of the South.
Yollywood.
Yeah.
I love it.
6-bedroom. I don't know why they needed all of that, but they booked it. And then the following month, here's the new avatar. And I'm going to leave this for your audience here. We're going to set it right here and drop the gems. The second avatar was actually the insurance companies. Allstate reached out. There's a family, unfortunately, whose home burnt down. They're a larger family, and they need a place just like ours. And they paid a premium for it. The next month, it was State Farm and then Progressive. And so we're kind of on the insurance circuit because, we're the only thing in town this size that could provide accommodations for a larger family. Otherwise, I spoke with one of the moms and she said, imagine cooking for a family of 10 at a hotel, and this is a family that was living in a 11,000 square foot estate. This property was, I want to say 6,000 square feet, which is quite large, but not as large as theirs. But the insurers wanting to keep them as close as possible to their standard of living. My property fit the bill for that. And our properties continue to fit the bill for these insurance companies.
Wow. Now, how could you, as you're looking for new properties, how can you find an area that would repeat that? Is it even feasible? You kind of went into it not really knowing, and then boom, you got hit. Do you know now enough about how to pick another property that would have that same dynamic?
Yeah. And so here's how it works. Actually, I have in my coaching mentorship, I have a student in Texas who's doing the same thing right now. I'm in Georgia. She's in Texas. Unfortunately, Bill, disasters happen to homes all the time. I didn't realize that. Homes are burning down. Homes are getting flooded due to a major plumbing issue. Flooring needs to be removed. And it happens more often than you would think. It's just coming to the forefront of my mind now because I get so many inquiries from housing specialists, and they're finding me on Airbnb. And so here's the deal. If the housing specialist is looking for a 2 or 3 bedroom, they could easily find that in an apartment, a corporate housing situation apartment. They can furnish it, lease it out for 4 months. One of our guests, actually, they signed a contract for 30 days. They were with us, Bill, for a year. 11 months, actually. They were with us for 11 months because it takes that long to renovate and get that home back to the way it needs to be. So it's uncanny, but anything above a 4-bedroom in a good, I would say a neighborhood that has, great schools, where the cost of living is a little bit higher, is where I would want to duplicate it. So if I'm looking for a new neighborhood to break into, of course, you have to know your regulations, make sure your regulations allow for, less than a 1-year stay, 30 nights, even less if needed. But once you have ironed that out, I would look for anything that's a 4-bedroom or above, because if it's anything less than a 4-bedroom, they could easily find those accommodations in a multifamily residential unit where they can furnish it themselves.
God, that's amazing. That's I don't know what else to say. That is what a niche you have found. It's just fascinating. This concludes part 1 of this podcast series. Stay tuned for the exciting conclusion this coming Monday.
Thank you very much for visiting the Old Dogs REI Network. We would greatly appreciate if you would stop by iTunes and let us know what you think of the show. We would love if you could subscribe to the podcast, give us a 5-star rating, and write a review. The more ratings and reviews we receive, the more visible the podcast will be to others. Thank you.